Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone and welcome back to a video. But today I'm going to be showing you my little presentation, or you could say an application for this Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Terorisme, or the National Counter Terrorism Agency of the Indonesian government. So, before that, let me explain what is this. The National Counter-Terrorism Agency is a government-level agency of the Indonesian government in which they try to prevent terrorism and also try to counter it. How, you may ask? I will explain shortly. So, there's a lot of methods that they use, such as, education, and then of course there's counter-terrorism, which you could say like direct action, and of course enforcing good laws that will hopefully prevent terrorism. And that's just in short what this agency is. And let me tell you why I'm going to apply for it, and why you, if you're listening, and why I think I should join this. Now, you see, for the past few years, Indonesia has experienced a few terrorist attacks, you could say, like the one in Jakarta and the one in the Bali bombings. You could probably remember all those events. And what happened? Tell me, what happened? There was never a terrorist attack in Indonesia before, until the new millennia, you could say. Up until the 2000s, there were never any terrorist attacks. But then, you see, terrorism began to rise internationally. Why, you may ask? Well, this is quite a complex topic to explain about. But in short, they also spread to Indonesia, our country. And it has created a very big vacuum of extremist ideologies in which could absorb and also divide our country. And this is not what we want. Indonesia has always been a united country of many different cultures and also good thinking. We cannot let extremism and also terrorism get into our country, whether they were controlled by other affairs or not. In which why I am offering myself in order to join the National Counter-Terrorism Agency. Now, you see, in order to have a good counter-terrorist agency, you could say, you have to first understand what happened and why terrorism happens. And this is a field that I am quite thoroughly, you could say I'm good at, and experienced. You see, in order to find out why terrorism happens, we have to look at the people that joins these organizations. Well, the terrorist organizations. You see, most of these people are educated, well, not well educated, you could say, and they're also being brainwashed by other misguided people, in which they form a circle around them that absorbs other people within. And then, after that, if the threat becomes big enough, they will spread outwards in a very dangerous level. And this could cause attacks like the ones I mentioned before happen across the islands. And in order to look at the demographics, it is very important to understand why people will even join such organizations. And with that being said, I, with my research on the internet and also various levels of history knowledge, could essentially provide the agency with helpful knowledge that should be able to track and also detect what kind of demographics that these terrorist organizations are looking for, and hopefully we could prevent it that way. And there's also other stuff that I mentioned, because not only why we must look at why these terrorist attacks happen, but we must also look at where and also how, and so who does it? Who does it? Who does these terrorist attacks? Oh, there's a lot of extremist organizations, you could say. And this is also another field of research that I've done into, in which makes me quite qualified, you could say. Why? Because you see, in order to track these organizations, we must look at their origin as well. Let's see. Let's say, for example, on a certain island, there's a terrorist attack. Okay, how does this happen? We have to look into it first. Like, what kind of people did it? And then, are they affiliated with any other groups of people or organization? This is where you start to see a pattern. Perhaps they could be an organized organization. Or, yeah, that's what an organization is. And in order to look into it thoroughly, we must also not forget the most important factors. And that is why we should probably look into it very thoroughly. Well, that's basically the thing that I said. So, after that, we must also look and know why these things happen. And then into the next section, why I'm very interested in joining. You see, ever since I was a kid, I was very interested, and I cannot look very far on how these things could happen. Like, I wonder, why does these things happen? That's why I did my own research for years. And eventually, it got to a point where I finally found out on why these things happen. And yet, I don't think I have the power enough to do anything or make a change. So, I have to look at a much more closer scale, and also we must, or I, decided to zoom in, and I found out about this thing, this National Counterterrorism Agency. And with that being said, that's just another one of my things. And after that, I would like to tell you on why these things are quite important. You see, and you might ask, like, where are they even located? Well, of course, they're located everywhere. You see, here's another fact about counterterrorism. It's that they happen everywhere, and we work in order to prevent it. Not just here on this island of Java, but all across the islands of the archipelago. You see, when you're writing a document or a paragraph, you have to zoom in so people could look and see the full detail. That is quite an important detail. Hold on. Yeah, just like that. You have to look at the full scale of things, which is why you must focus on the whole archipelago, the island of Indonesia, the islands of Nusantara. And if you still cannot look into it, maybe because, well, you don't have good eyesight, then you must try and attempt to look much further than you can. Because, you see, there's also motivations on why these things could happen. And also, that being said, there's also a lot of other stuff that I am going to mention, such as, let's see, what else have I talked about? So, yeah, let's see, what else did I talk about? What else? And after I contributed to this organization, of course, there will be a lot of things that I will do, such as I will improve on the research department, and you see, I may explain why again. Now, in order to be good at research, you must, of course, use this internet for quite a while. And I've been a user of the internet for years. That's why I could probably do some research. Or you could say, have you ever heard of a little thing called OSINT? OSINT, or open source intelligence. Now, this is quite a fun topic to talk about, and this is quite important in order to prevent and counter terrorism. Now, you see, open source intelligence could refer to as intelligence that other people could access easily, which is like from an open source, of course, just like its name implies, which is why there's a lot of stuff that goes around the internet. And this, when I join this thing, or if I do, then I will contribute a lot in this section and also field, people say, because there's a lot of other stuff. Let me just explain or mention a few of the platforms where you could probably get OSINT on stuff like this. First of all, there's Twitter, or X, of course. Now, this I've been, I haven't actually used this app very much. I mean, all I've done, I did not interact with anyone. I just look and search, and I found a lot of important stuff that the outside media doesn't show you, which is why it doesn't really, it's not very good if the public doesn't know about it. That's why we must first look into it. And then there's also stuff like Telegram, in which much more important stuff gets mentioned, but doesn't get shown to the public because, might include some very controversial stuff. And yeah, I guess that's just about it. Thank you for listening to me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.